Hey everyone, welcome to the Relive, the nightmare that was the BT Epic. If you're slow, it was a nightmare. If you're really fast, it probably wasn't at all. But we're here to relive all the glory that I had in the BT Epic, that Kyle witnessed and Ryan managed to avoid. And to be honest with you, he might have got the better end of the deal this year. So, anyway, let's get into it. Boys, Ryan, I know you got a hard stop coming up, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, I guess all the listeners probably know the weather was not friendly to you guys. Tons of rain, tons of thunder. I think even I heard some people posting about hail and high winds, kind of all of the above. Give us a real quick breakdown of exactly the weather. Not Clinton's full BT epic every mile breakdown of how it was, but just what was happening in different times of the race with the weather. Like, did we see all those kind of elements? Is that true?
Um, kind of. So basically, we got into a little bit of rain. You could hear the rain and it was kind of sprinkling, but it really wasn't having much of an effect on anything until, I got to Berryman Campground around 10:55. I was ahead of schedule. I was just trying to be there by 11. And it was raining, but it wasn't at that point where it was really an issue. I mean, there were some times it was kind of dark in the trail, but I'd say it was around 12:30 or so, maybe just a little later that and this at this point I was climbing the hill. I'd finished the Berryman Loop, had gone through the valley across the creek, was climbing this big hill to a gravel road,
Yeah,
and out I was probably halfway up that, maybe two-thirds of the way up, and it started absolutely dumping. Um,
yeah.
Now throughout the day, I caught, there was lightning. You'd hear thunder, see lightning flashes here and there. Um, you would also, I didn't experience any hail at all, though. Neither was the wind bad. I never got into any real strong winds at all, which was
No, we got
actually,
Okay.
lucky. We got lucky in that part, man. I
yeah,
was worried about wind and trees dropping because those trees come
yes.
down pretty easy over there in the Berryman. So much so that like I actually brought my chainsaw, gas, and oil, and I had planned on like wherever I was at, if we had to, I was going to start having to just cut out of stuff. So I'm glad the wind didn't get as bad as it said. But no, that lightning and thunder, I mean, legitimate lightning and thunder close by, lots and lots and lots and lots of rain,
Yeah, but we're
torrential
not
rain.
we're not sissies like those people down at
Wow.
Big Sugar that took that race down to half distance so they'd be done before the rain came.
No, no, Scott, the promoter, he's hardcore, man. He ain't changing nothing. That's
He's a real deal,
awesome.
man. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, and he's super passionate about his race, and you see it. He's always hanging out, high fiving people. I saw him 2 weeks before the race. My family, we do our camp out down there at Bass, and he's checking in down there at the store for his campsite and all that stuff. And he turns around. I got my BT Epic shirt on. He's like, brother, give me a big hug, and whatnot. So just a good dude, but he ain't changing that. He's hardcore, and I don't know. I think that's the lure of that. You said, like you probably dodged a good one, but I was still bumming I wasn't there. Not gonna lie. Like, I know the conditions were probably more than miserable, and probably what I've seen with a lot of people's posts is probably a little more. Um, I think they posed a little more joy on their posts than they probably went through. Um, but all in all, like, hey, part of you know, I don't know. I don't know if mountain biking's hardcore like moto, but it was always like, hey, it just you kind of everybody's racing the same thing, so you deal with it. So I don't know. I admire a lot of those people that raced. The one thing that stood out to me, and then I'll get to one question I have because I do got a really quick hard stop for work, is the young lady that finished at, I don't know, what was it? Probably 9, 10 hours.
It was 9 hours and 38
17-year-old,
minutes.
yeah, 17-year-old girl. I don't know. The post said something about her dad even was telling her to stop, and she was like, "No way, Dad, I'm going to keep going." And she finished and came across that finish line with a smile. And Scott, the promoter, even rallied anybody that was around to cheer her on. Like
That, that
that
was
to
actually
me
the
is like
coolest thing.
the true
It was
spirit.
cool. It was cool that she did it. It was even cooler that Scott made a big deal about it that he did. I mean, like he gave us an hour heads up, a 20-minute
Yeah.
heads up, and a 10-minute heads up, and said, "I don't care how hard it's raining. I need everybody standing on this finish line." And it was that was
Yeah.
actually the coolest thing was that he was able to make out of it what he did. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Her name is Hannah. I don't
Yeah.
know her last name, but that's. I think she was. She.
That was the
I'm reading a post here about her right now. You know that Matt wrote because Matt kind of jumped in with her at the end to help keep her company. And apparently she was like
Yep.
bonking and didn't even know what that was, and he was having to give her M&Ms and Coke and or somebody, Uh,
Yeah.
so
That's awesome. Just to me, that embodies mountain biking and why we do this. Like at the end of the day, we all race and we want to have these awesome results and finishes and hit our goals, whatever that is. But at the end of the day, that to me is it's essentially why I fell in love with mountain biking 12 years ago or whenever it was. Is just that spirit of camaraderie and everybody's really builds each other up. Clinton, you'll attest to this. I think in our days growing up racing moto, there's always this kind of feeling like you kind of want to see your competitor fail, whereas and maybe that's wrong. I know I'll make myself vulnerable, and I would see that. Not that I ever wanted somebody to crash or get hurt, but you just you wanted to win so bad. But in mountain
it's a
biking,
different,
it's not that way. Like I want to see
yeah,
people succeed.
it's a different kind of
Yeah,
racing.
yeah, it's
Um,
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
And don't take this the wrong way.
yeah. Which so that
You guys are fine mountain bikers, but you guys were a little more competitive in terms of overalls in moto than you are in mountain biking. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
at some point in time in your guys' moto careers, like you were showing up with the capabilities of being the top five fastest guys on the track that day, period. And that drives a different
yeah,
level of competitiveness versus, trying to finish in the top 100. you know,
right, right.
yeah. Sure. Yeah, 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 for sure.
but I
That's a
agree.
good point, Kyle. But anyway, that was an awesome story. I don't know if it's possible. I know we've really slacked on our podcast game, but last year post BT, we got some guests on, and if we were going to do something, man, I don't know how if it'd be possible, but getting that young lady on to hear her story, like I want to know like how long she's been mountain biking and like what prompted her to do this, like we had Chloe and Cade and Brianna on last year, and that was super cool. I think this is the story of the race, in my opinion. So anyway, that was just super cool. Something I saw. Clint, I want to get to, I didn't realize it was that far in the race that the weather really played a factor in kind of guys that are in our time range. Obviously the fast guys were done probably by the time that weather hit, but which speaks to the course record getting set. I think it was 3:47. Some young man I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with
somewhere in the neighborhood of
beat
5 minute
beat the course record.
beat, like 5 minute course record beat.
I mean,
Yeah, it was kind of
Yeah,
before the storm hit, really, really hit. I mean, from what I could see where I was at every place, the trail conditions were kind of primo, and the weather temp was good. Just a real light, misty drizzle was like enough to keep you cool while you were moving. Like
yeah.
it was kind of primo the first portion of it.
yeah, started a little
That
dusty as
really
usual,
explains
but
it, in my opinion.
yeah, it started out dusty. There were a few minutes there that were pretty good, but a lot of leaves had come down this year already, so they had wet leaves, which wasn't too big of a deal. But
Yep.
let's just say I think and Kyle and I will talk about this more later. The skills portion of this kind of racing, a great many people don't, I don't think, make it a priority to work on their skills, their ability to ride the bike
No,
downhill fast.
you've never mentioned that.
And that was
It's never been
that
mentioned
was
on this
on full
podcast.
display this year, even more so than normal. uh, which
Well, I
I'll
think a lot of that is too like people are probably being more cautious than they
yeah,
normally would be because they think the
exactly.
horse is wet and slipped. Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
passed two
So
guys at the
anyway,
very end that should have beat me. I mean, fitness wise, they were gone up the gravel road, got to the bottom of a real long hill, and clearly they didn't listen to the preview pod because they would have known to get in the right gear and dodge the rough stuff. But now it was also muddy in that spot, and they were both off their bikes, like pushing, and I just tractored up right between them. And that was, I beat a lot of people this year that I really had no business beating, just based
Yeah.
purely on my ability to just stay on the bike. But what else
So,
you got, Ryan? I want to make
um,
sure you get all the things out that you want to say.
so yeah, question for you is, um, when the rain came, how much did it change? I know in the preview pod you had mentioned the sisters was really loose, chewed up from the horses, and then I want you to elaborate into, I your finish time was 6:01, which I think is a PR for you, but like how much faster do you realistically think you could have gone, being as you rode, let's say 20, 18, 20 miles in those really nasty conditions? Like, how fast could you have gone?
I definitely could have gotten 5.5. I 100% believe that.
Okay.
In fact, probably the only place that really wasn't significantly worse, other than I did get slowed down on kind of a flat section following a guy, and going up the sisters, those actually weren't bad. In fact, I PR'd the third one. Um, Going down the sisters and literally everywhere else was so much more. It was so much worse. I really couldn't believe it because I'm coming up that climb and it is the rain is coming so hard. I turn onto the gravel road. They'd put fresh rock gravel down anyway, so it would have been soft and loose regardless. And as soon as I turned on that road and started going, and there's water, there's ruts everywhere, like standing water. It's incredibly soft and mushy. I knew it was over then because the conditions were just way slower. And I might have
Yeah.
been, let's say if I had started with the pro group, not because I'm that fast, but just if I had started 10 minutes earlier and not had anybody in front of me that would have been slowing me down at any point, I might have finished 5:40 because I would have been another 15 minutes up the trail before the rain hit. But it was raining
Yeah.
so hard that it just was like instant. It didn't take any time at all for the surface, whether it was gravel road or trail, to deteriorate. I mean, the gravel roads were slow.
Sure.
You had to ride instead of like riding fast and kind of recovering to get ready for the sisters, you were riding slow and trying hard at the same time. And
Yeah.
then and
Yeah. I
then as
mean,
soon as
like you think about
it was unbelievable. It looked like a motocross
if
track, like ruts with water filled in the ruts. And then as soon as we got on
you
the
sent us a
trail was a
picture.
river.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sent us a picture of when you were coming in back into Bass, and I think Kyle took it, or I'm sure it was probably Kyle took it. But anyway, like on that fence line there by the horse or cow pasture,
Hmm.
and you could just tell you were just trudging through a river, basically,
Oh,
on
I
that
lost a
gravel
full,
road. And so,
I mean, literally you come out of the woods, you cross the parking lot, and then you have to go through that grass, which I did. I didn't cheat. Like a whole bunch of people behind me I saw cheated and went through the gravel parking lot and then cut under the tape. I lost a full minute from that point to the finish line. I was a full minute slower than in the past because it was just a bog. It was just a bog. Like I'm
yeah,
searching for anything and I'm pedaling as hard as I can and I'm just going nowhere. Uh,
yeah,
so you multiply that by 18 miles worth,
Actually,
and
I heard that echoed on somebody else too. They said the worst part of the bad part of the race was the very last section through the grass to finish.
yeah, yeah, it was the
yeah,
longest worst part. There was another part, probably a mile and a half before the finish, coming up a hill that had turned into a mud bog uphill, and I almost fell multiple times. I was just spinning out, sitting on the saddle in my granny gear, trying to tractor up this hill. And there was nowhere to go. I'd try to
yeah,
find the edges of the trail, and that was even worse because it was deep. It hadn't been pushed down to the bottom. It was terrible. So I really 100% believe I had the 5.5 hour pace on a dry trail. Um, but there was, I mean, well, let me give you context. And she didn't ask to be named in this, but well, we had Chloe Harrisberger on the pod last year, right? She's been
Yep.
training all year. She was like 5.5 hours last year or something. She was around your time, Ryan. She was in the
Yep.
540s
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
And she's
Brittany,
fitter, stronger, and faster this year than she was last
yeah,
year.
you know, uh, a, a,
Yeah, for sure.
a
Yeah.
woman we know named Brittany, we won't say her last name, but her time was 5:52. So that should give you an
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah. Yeah.
just
She's a
how
low fives.
those
And
those
she's fast.
conditions
Yeah.
just killed everybody.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
if
I
you weren't
seen a
out of
lot.
there,
My last comment, guys, before I gotta sign off here, is seen a lot of DNFs. A lot of people we know DNF'd. Um, was that wasn't injuries? That was more mechanical. Like I would assume maybe this trail being slower, hopefully wasn't injuries. It was just a lot of mechanical type stuff.
it was mostly people just giving up because they were
It,
wet and cold.
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's what it mostly was. There were a lot of, I
It,
mean, there's flats every
Yeah.
year. I feel like there were even more this year than normal.
Way more. I fixed four flats out of the Granada van this weekend. Just because the problem is that on Missouri Trail sometimes you only have a half inch to work with on choosing lines through rock sections, and now when you don't have traction and everything's kind of always at an ish level, you're slamming into cuts and sidewall slices. I saw more sidewall slices this year than last year, or any other year combined actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it was, yeah,
Well,
Ryan. It was
awesome. Sorry.
mechanicals and then that risk reward thing of it's just it was a bunch of guys that have done the race before, finished the race before, clearly know they're not going to set a PR. Is it worth it to go out and risk bike failure or injury to finish this race an hour behind the time I normally do? A lot of those guys just threw in the towel and were like, "Nah, man, that cooler full of beer looks real good."
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that too. Hey, at least they showed up and gave it a whirl. I didn't. So uh anyway, yeah, I'm sorry guys, I have to cut short. Got to get to work and get doing some stuff. But good job, Clint. We'll catch up and we'll try and get something else going here soon as well.
All
All
right,
right.
thanks,
See
Ryan.
you, Ryan.
See you
All
guys.
right, Kyle. So
So
where
my
should we go from
question,
here?
so I have a couple of questions. So one of the questions I had is, as far as strategic decision making, did the weather play a part in any of your decision making on trying to get into the woods earlier, pushing harder than you should through flats or through gravel to get better access to the woods so you didn't get stuck behind a bunch of jabronis? What what were going through your head, and what kind of decision making did you put in place? Was it worth it? Was it not?
No, there wasn't really any change there because a race this long, your body can only do what it can do regardless, right? Um, I really the only thing prep wise as far as like I wish I had went ahead and put on a fender on the front of my bike, and I wish I had went ahead and put the visor on my helmet like I told Brad Wadlow I was going to do, and he talked me out of. Um, other than that,
Did you take your visor off your helmet to save watts?
Brad told me to. Okay.
Oh my God, Clint. Just buy the road bike now, dude. Get it over with.
The visor's going back on, buddy. Don't worry. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth
Uh,
it. Um, so really, no. The short answer is no.
okay.
Um, I still was ahead of schedule. I think maybe my the line of people I was catching might have actually helped me in the long run because, for example, um, one of the downhills, and I actually went and did some calculations. I looked at old like times downhills when I'm by myself versus in the race. So like the descent down to Brazil Creek, um, I lost probably anywhere from a minute 15 to a minute and a half. If I'd been by myself, I probably would have been down that one hill a minute and 15 to a minute and a half faster. Okay.
Okay.
However, the climb up it, I could see there was a line of like 20 or 30 riders that I was catching. Well, what am I going to do when I get there, right? So I literally, this is just one example. I turned around, I turned my head back. There was, because there was about 4 or 5 guys right behind me, I think. Said, "Hey, are you guys good at going downhill?" They go, "Yeah, yeah, we think we're pretty good." I said, "Okay, just trust me. We're going to slow down because you see that line way up there? Yeah. We're going to catch them long before the bottom of the next hill." And they were like, "All right, we trust you." And we crawled up that hill, but it saved, saving the legs a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
and sure enough, we caught them before the halfway point. Like we went a third of the way down, we were already in the line. I mean,
Wow.
it's just unbelievable how the gap there, the skill gap there. But I still made it to that checkpoint. I was like 10 minutes early from what even the time I was trying to do. So I was a little less frustrated this year because I guess when I'm going that much slower down the hill, I'm really recovering a lot. Like, when I go down the hills by myself, like I'm not pushing, I'm like chilling, but when you're going extra slow, then you really relax. So that might have, I don't think that was really as much of an issue, even though it felt like it at the time. Um, but my strategy off the start this year, last year I let the B wave go and I waited like 2 minutes and then I went like by myself thinking, "Oh, I'll be by myself. This will be great," which was a big mistake, big mistake. This year I literally got in the front row and went through the start timing thing. And I knew like people are going to fly by me on the start. So I got myself literally to the edge of the road on the left. So I'm out of the way. But even then, I could not believe how fast and hard the whole pack was riding. I mean, if there were 250 people in that wave, I probably got passed by 200. It was, I was sitting there questioning my whole life, going, "Oh my gosh, did I even train? Are my tires flat? Are my brakes rubbing?" Like I was sitting there like, what is happening right now? It was just like Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby gets back in the car after his crash and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're
Who's
going
the other
fast
cars?
now." And then the car's just, phew. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. But I didn't take the bait because I knew I was like, I'm gonna see a lot of you later, and I would bet there's no way to know this for sure. I wish there was a counter at where you get onto the trail for the first time 4 miles in, like your total overall position. I would bet you I passed at least 100 people throughout the course of the race. At least.
Did you
Um,
get any sniper attack single track passes, or was it all gravel and gimmies?
no, I definitely had a lot of single track ones. Some of them not really sniper, more like, "Hey, at the top of this hill, can I, come by?" Which I'm asking them, "Can you kind of make it easy on me to come by at the top or something
Sure.
like that?" There
Right.
toward the end, there was one. We were going down, and I just didn't want to lose momentum because I knew what was coming. Where if I could get by myself, I'd have a lot of speed going into the next uphill. So I kind of risked it and just like went through the leaves like kamikaze past this guy down a hill. It worked out, but um, yeah, I'd say I had to have passed at least 100 people. The only people that ever came by me were people that I think I had seen that had flatted that were up in the fast bunch anyway. Um, and there were very few of those that I got passed by very few. And there were a lot of people that passed me either on climbs or on the roads that I ended up passing again by the end anyway in the single track. Um, which brings me to my first, if I could make a rule for next year, it's if Clint beats you, you have to start behind him and stay behind him until Berryman Campground, and then you can do whatever you want.
That's not how it works, Clint. Some guys are
I
good at
know,
other stuff than you.
I know, man. I know that's not how it works, but it was unbelievable how many people passed me. At least 200. I don't know. Might have been more than that. There were very few people left behind me by the time we got to the trail.
Wow.
Um, but it really didn't take any time at all to start picking people off. The first steep climb, it's about 5 miles in. Everybody knows it. It's like the steepest climb on the whole course. Uh, People just can't. I mean, if they hit a loose rock or something, they just come off the bike, right? Like either their foot down, they're gonna walk it, whatever. And I just like tractor chugged a lug, you know, right by people. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't, there was no way to change strategy because if I'd have tried to go faster, okay, if I'm a half a mile up the road farther or even 1 mile by the time the rain hits, but I'm completely exhausted because I went harder to, it's not going to matter, right? That I'm going to lose all that time from fatigue that I gained on just getting to ride drier road for extra mile. So there's
Right.
really no strategy change I really think was be realistic to implement.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was thinking about was that like if you saw an opportunity to burn harder during a gravel section to beat a group into single track, I was like, man, I bet he does. And just risk the burnout on the climb just to make sure you didn't get stuck behind 30 people on a descent. I felt bad for missing yeah, Berryman. I had my hands full with Harry. We were changing Brianna's tire,
Yeah, I
sidewall
saw her
slice,
lying
and
on the ground there.
she's such a fantastic person. Like she just has like this like fun spirit about everything. She was laughing and joking when she showed up with a flat, walking of whatever the mile was or whatever in her carbon ballet slippers essentially, and shows up joking and laughing. And her mom's like, hey, can you guys get this going? Can you change it? I was like, yeah, we can fix this. I can do it real quick. So me and Harry knocked it out, and Brianna was like, or maybe you don't have to. Like maybe you shouldn't.
Hey man, I can see that if that was the only thing about this year that was a little disappointing, which if people see pictures of me, they're gonna say that guy didn't train. Look at how chubby he is. Like I look pretty bad in that jersey, but I
Yeah, I
did.
gotta be honest with you. There was a little bit of me posting that picture on our Facebook page, just as a way of saying thanks for only using incredibly embarrassing photos of me and Ryan for the past 5 years of this podcast exclusively. And in every photo of you that ends up on this podcast page, you look just cool as can be, like a pro giant racer with full kit. And there's me falling off a cliff and Ryan getting bucked OTV. So I was like, you know what? This is going to be the new. This will have to be the new page here for a while of Clint finishing.
That's totally fair, man. And you know what? It's good motivation. It's really good motivation. I mean, think about how bad I would have looked 10 pounds heavier. Um, anyway, it is like, hey, I'm not crying. It,
I
it
didn't
was
realize.
it was
I didn't
disappointing
realize
though,
you.
just because I did work really hard to
But
get
you
to
still
where I could
PR'd.
make that. I PR'd, but I still wanted to see that 5:30 on the clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
but man, like a PR even in conditions like that is pretty wild.
and a big one too. I mean, that
Yeah,
was a 7-minute PR, um, in
that's
terrible
amazing.
conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah, man,
my buddy
I was
my
getting
buddy
it.
Jeremy PR'd too.
But here's the reason I wanted to say that is I think I would have just kind of been like laughing it off and just like, whatever, like riding in the mud if I hadn't had that goal in mind. So I was kind of fighting like this disappointment that like it wasn't gonna happen. There was just no way. With still, I had to battle many times like I'm gonna finish the race. Like that was never a question. Like quitting was never a consideration. But doing my absolute best that I could muster was definitely a battle in my mind of like, what's the point of me really going for it at this point versus, hey, let's just ride it out and try to enjoy whatever we can enjoy in the rain. Um, but I didn't. I mean, I I will say up some of the sisters, I was having that mental battle and didn't really get it. And then by the third sister, I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it and do our best and just see what we can get. And so I actually set a PR up the third sister. Um, and actually stuck with it and rode, I rode as hard as I could through Bass to the end. I was trying to keep the nutrition going, even though I could barely drink anything because I was just so sick of the sugar. Um, and I can truly say, like, within a minute or so total time, I did the best I could do that day. I didn't save anything, um, for the end. So
You know what's funny too is that your sugar comment. So I can't for the life of me remember who it was that I was talking to. We were talking about racing and endurance racing and different stuff like that. And then he said, BT Epic is not an endurance race. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not an endurance race? I'm like,
it
it is
is.
the endurance race. And he's like, no, man, it's an eating contest. It's all it is. How many calories and how much carbs can you pack into yourself in 5 hours? And I was like, he's like, it's an eating contest, man. That's what it is. And I'm like,
Well,
I
you,
guess. I don't know.
maybe that little extra layer I was carrying was helping because I beat a lot of dudes that are a lot leaner than I am. And I have never had the experience of like gut distress from too many carbs. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just kept downing them all day. And like, I got to the point where I just didn't want any more, but I didn't have like gut distress. Like, I never had gut cramps, nothing like that.
Yeah.
This year though,
What
I did have, my legs were on the verge as early as about mile 17 or 18. I felt the like, better not stand up and crank hard. Um, and that kind of came and went and came and went. It wasn't, I knew my legs weren't going to like cramp to the point of dysfunction and I was still able to ride hard. But in a race, even if you feel good and you don't think you're going harder than normal, you always are. And your body's just not used to that.
did you?
So,
How many any pickle recoveries in the middle of the race?
two, Bryce got me with one at, just past Whiskey Ridge. He had one, I was yelling for, and then I hit another one at, back at the campground entrance before the last loop.
Okay.
And I think they helped, but maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Leg cramps are almost always just from muscle fatigue. You're pushing your legs harder than you do when you train, even if you don't realize you're doing it because you're just kind of pumped up to be in the race. People are behind you. You don't want to slow them down. You just go a little harder. I don't know if you can even help it. It just,
Yeah.
but I
No,
wasn't
that
ever
was
worried about it really. I was like, I've been here before. I'll be fine. And I was.
that's always my struggle on the endurance racing. Like I grew up my whole life being a sprinter, so it's just like I use the analogy with Connor. We're talking about racing and what he wants to do and stuff like that. So I said it's like think about a cup of water, man, and your goal is at the end of the race to have zero water in that cup. But you have to pour water out at whatever speed that you need to in order to have water in the cup until the very end, and then you're empty. And I'm like, so you can't just dump it out all at once, and then you got nothing for the rest of the race. So I'm like, that's the goal of understanding what race you're doing. Like, so we're talking BMX racing, you can just dump that whole thing out at once. Like you're like it just is everything you've got, throw it all out there to pour it out as fast as you can. I'm like, but start getting into these other races, and you have to adjust how you pour that cup of water out to make sure that you have water in the cup until the very end. But when you get to the end, there better be zero. And so we were talking about that, and I was like, I'm like, I haven't ever figured out how to do that. Like just being a sprinter, I never did. Still have not figured out how to regulate. Like I can do 10 miles. I know, what I can live at and how hard I can push for 10 miles, maybe 15. But we start getting past that, and I either go too slow or I go too hard, or I haven't figured that out yet. Which is I'll start trying to figure that out. I'll get back to training when Connor starts getting old enough. I think the soft goal that we had was Connor to possibly entertain doing the BT at 12 or 13 is what I'm thinking. I want to be able to get a full season of racing NICA behind us, and understanding what the training looks like, understand what success looks like, and figure out racing. We're going to race UFD and do some crit racing next year and stuff like that, but I'd like to get him a full season of racing NICA and then maybe make it the goal the following year to race BT. But that'll probably be the next year that I do it, honestly. What Clint, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I had myself muted. And when
No, you're
Connor
okay.
does it, I would like to ride with you guys, like and just enjoy being out there and supporting someone. But as far as the cup analogy, I think there were probably about 150 people that they emptied the cup way too early. And it's hard not to, man.
Yeah,
It is psychologically very difficult at the start of that race when you've been out there and you've been putting in work weekend after weekend and your poor kids are at home and you're gone for 6 hours or whatever and you start the race and it looks and you feel like I am the slowest person in this wave. To not like pick up the pace just to fit in.
yeah.
Um, but I didn't.
No, that self doubt,
And
that self doubt, and then that discipline to know and understand where what your pace is and what's safe and what you know what I mean. Like that's good discipline to do that, and the only way you get that is by racing a lot and getting a lot of miles in.
yeah, but I'm just telling you off the start, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I on an 8 hour pace? That's how I felt. Like I'm on an 8 hour pace compared. Look at how fast these people are going. But I wasn't. I was on a 5.5 hour pace. Everybody else just starts like they're in the pro class and then slows down. And
Right.
and they're like you see people literally just standing on the side of the trail, like catching their breath, like 7 miles in because they're just like, wait, I've messed up. But so Brad Wadlow, friend of the podcast, he was in that wave and he was a lot closer to the front, but he even told me, he's like, Clint, there were times I was doing like 450 watts and people were still just passing me. I'm like, I know, Brad, it's kind of crazy. Um, but it is what it is. All right, we're going to
Too.
take
So
a
we talk
real
about
quick break and then we're going to pick this back up with I've got some specific stuff here. So if you're
okay.
listening, this is going to sound like a 2 second break, but to us it'll be a real one. So here we go, Kyle. And we're back.
So
Go ahead,
so
Kyle.
Glenn, one of the things that I wanted to know, what is your mileage count going into BT for 2025?
Oh geez. I don't know. And how do we count indoor miles just as such?
Do you? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can. So I mean, like, do you track all your rides indoor and outdoor on Strava?
I do. So it shouldn't take me long to figure that out here. Um, it's it's not as many. I mean, I really ramp it up starting in early August just because of life. It's a big ask to be gone Saturday, 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 Saturday from 7 a.m. to 2 in the afternoon or more. Um,
Oh no,
by
yeah,
the
like
time I get home.
you're no, you're preaching to the choir, man. I haven't figured out how to even ask that, so I haven't even done it. You know what I mean? So that's why it might, I don't know how to. I wouldn't even know how to begin about even trying to explain that to my wife.
So distance 1,218.6 miles for 2025. So it's
Okay,
not,
so yes, well,
that's not a lot compared to a lot of people. Um,
no, yeah, there's a lot of people that go into that race with 5 or 6 thousand miles behind them or more.
and Hannah and I was already telling her this before this race. This is why I want to find someone to ride with that's maybe doing it for the first time or just, isn't going to be super fast for next year. Now, I will say, and you're going to hate this, but I do believe Zwift and the indoor setup was a major factor in me being able to do even as well as I did this year because that has many times been the difference between not riding at all and getting in a solid hard 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
many
I'm
times.
hoping so.
So
So I got my Zwift trainer late in the winter last year. Like it was the weather was flirting with outdoor rides already. Like when I bought it, I think I got it in early March. So I don't know what I'm going to do this year. The indoor thing is so dumb. I have a hard time motivating for it because I don't have a good space for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm cramped in my basement between stuff, and it's not a comfortable space to enjoy sweating. But maybe this year I'll do more with it.
You just got to have a fan blowing on you. I mean, my setup's in a pretty cramped, kind of janky looking, dirty basement too. But get that fan blowing on you and get a TV in front of you. Um, it's all right.
Yeah,
Uh, Now, being this is the part of the podcast where maybe people roll their eyes, but I truly believe there were some things I did well that maybe allowed me to, if I were to say maybe I outperformed my fitness, relatively speaking. Um, and there's some tips for next year, especially or any race where if the forecast is calling for real rain, there's some things I would have done differently on the front end. If I could go back in time and change some stuff, there's a few things I would have, and then there's some things I did that I think very few people, if anybody did, that really also helped me do at least as well as I did. Um, so first thing, I had mentioned when I saw the forecast, I might put the like a front fender on my bike. So whether you just do like a zip tie one, I actually have one for my fork that bolts on. Because with the Manitou, it has that reverse arch. So the zip tie ones, I mean, you can still use them. You have to run them backwards, but they're not quite as good. I should have put that on because it would have made a huge difference for the last 17 or 18 miles. Um, just with
yeah.
trail spray. Uh, However, something I did, so I did some research and I knew at some point my glasses were going to get water on them or sweat or something, and I really didn't want to take them off. Even if it was dry, I don't like riding without glasses. Just it makes me nervous. Afraid I'm gonna get something in my
Yep,
eye. I don't want to do it.
yep.
But when they're smeared up and you can't see, it just, you sometimes you just have to. So I did some research and I couldn't find the exact version I wanted, but I went to Walmart and I went to the car automotive aisle, and there's several, I think there are two different products that would have worked just fine. They're Rain-X brand, but they are all surface sprays, not just glass specific. Because from what I understand, you do not want to use the glass specific Rain-X on any glasses that have a coating because it can mess up the coating, like as a tint or something. But there was a
Okay.
bottle, it was a huge bottle for $9 of just like this Rain-X clean and shine, all surface, whatever. So I'm like, I'm gonna
Is
try
it like a
this.
high is it like a hydrophobic coating?
Yes, yep, exactly.
Awesome.
And so I took it
That was
home
brilliant.
and I tested it on some cheap glasses that I don't really wear anymore. And I tested it on those. I'm like, all right, this seems okay. So then I tested it on a slightly nicer pair of glasses, and I thought it had messed them up, but I think what I actually just had were a bunch of scratches that it was so clean that now the scratches were like very clear that you could see.
Okay.
So then I got out one of my pairs of like race glasses, and I figured out where my vision does not really go through the lens. So I tested a little bit like up high along the edge just to make sure. I let it sit there for a little bit and then I wiped it off. Everything looked fine, nothing happened. So I went ahead and coated my race glasses with this stuff. Um, and then I actually had two pair of race glasses. Um, One pair was just a pair of Carhartt from Dicky Bub country store, safety glasses basically, but they have like the foam around it, like motorcycle riders wear, like street bike guys that don't want, they don't have like a shield, but they
Yep.
want to have you have eye protection, but you can't have the wind blowing in. And I've worn glasses like that for years at this race because of the dust. Um, that dust irritates your eyes. So I sprayed those as well, and I gave my other glasses to Silent Bryce. Big shout out to Silent Bryce. He was a major part of my program this year, um, to give me quick bottle handoffs or whatever I needed, whether it was He had a bottle with electrolyte mix in it where I could just take a big swig and take off and get a fresh bottle from him. So at Brazil Creek, my glasses were clean, but I thought, okay, these look pretty dorky. I'm gonna switch to my cool Tifosi sledge, actual mountain bike glasses. Um, so as I'm coming up to Brazil Creek, I start yelling, "Glasses, glasses!" So he's already got them ready by the time I get to him, right? That was actually a mistake because they were tinted and the cloud cover came in and it was like I could barely see anything riding in the dark. It wasn't great. So I had to stick with those all the way to Whiskey Ridge because Bryce wasn't at Berryman. But when I got to Whiskey Ridge, or the road, it was actually the road after Whiskey Ridge. I start hollering at Bryce to give me the clear glasses. Actually, that's not true. We were all the way on the gravel road after the rain started before I got those glasses. Put on my foam line glasses that were totally clear, no tint, and they were dirty, man. Like there was water on them. Every once in a while, I had to take them off and just kind of use my finger to wipe mud off or whatever. But that hydrophobic coating did enough to bead the water up that I could still see. And I kept them on all the way to the finish because the spray off your tires off the trail that anybody that races that was out there that late knows that that spray was no joke. And we've lost Kyle here, but I'm going to keep talking. So I, I knew I was making the right choice when there was a man that caught me on the gravel road, a guy that I know kind of locally. Um, he took off down the road, got in front of me, and we got in the trail. And I started catching him again because he couldn't see, not just because the trail was covered in water, but because his eyes were getting that dirty water flung up into his eyes. And I ended up passing him and leaving him, beat him by a decent amount, just not because I was fitter, but because I could keep my eyes open and just go fast and not worry about the spray. So, the hydrophobic coating on the glasses and just being determined to keep them on no matter what was definitely the right move. Um, Another right move is you know, I always have tires that are a little more aggressive than everybody else. I guess that helped um, in spots, but I do think the wider 2.6 tires helped on those gravel roads that were so soft. Um, Now I don't know that those wider tires really helped with traction climbing because I was floating in the mud instead of digging down and gripping the mud. Kyle's rejoined us here, but he's muted, so I'm just going to keep talking until he unmutes himself. Um, so those were things I think I did well. Pacing, I did well. Um, I planned to have one bottle per hour, ended up only drinking about 4.5 out of my 6 bottles, but I did consume 4 gels over the course of the race extra. So calorie wise, I had eaten about all I could do. And then hydration wasn't that much of an issue because I was freezing cold the whole time once the rain
Yeah,
started.
you were. Yeah, you're not really sweating. What did you? What was your go-to gels, nutrition in the bottle? Any actual food?
Okay, so um in the bottles, I had 24-ounce bottles mostly, except for one was a smaller bottle. But in those big bottles, I would have 2 scoops of Formula 369 and then a scoop of pure glucose powder. And that was probably giving me 100 grams of carbs a bottle at least,
Okay.
probably 350 calories or something. And then I'd add like a fourth of a teaspoon of salt, just table salt into those. And then in my slightly smaller bottle, it was the same ratio, but it was a smaller bottle, so I just had 2 scoops of Formula 369. And then my gels were just Goo brand. I had two with no caffeine and two with caffeine, and I
What's your go-to
I was
flavor?
good. Well, it's just what I could get at Farmington Walmart. So the caffeine ones are vanilla, like vanilla bean, and then the
Oh
others I
God.
like are they're like raspberry lemonade flavored.
Okay.
So yeah, they're fine, but man, my last one, my hands were so dirty and the pack the little goop pack was like all dirty, and I like was trying to squirt it in my mouth from a distance because I didn't want to put my mouth on it. And that didn't really work. About half of it ended up on my glove. Uh,
Oh, that's a sticky mess too.
that was right there before I saw you back at the campground. It was like right there is where that was going on, and I was so frustrated at that point, Kyle. Um,
So just bottles with nutrition and 4 coups for the whole race.
and I didn't even
No.
finish the bottles. I'd say I did 4.5 bottles instead of six.
Okay, so
That's
no food, no snacks, no little
no,
Debbie's. You went
no.
you went real athletic nutrition.
Yep, yep. And I got
Okay.
up early, so I have a real hard time eating um the morning of a race. I got up early to try to eat something with some substance to it at least 3 hours before race time. So I got up at 5:30 and had like a Kodiak Cakes blueberry muffin cup. So I had like 230 calories, 12 grams of protein. I ate most of it, but then it just got to a point where I just couldn't. Like it felt, you feel like sick and nervous.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't eat in the mornings either.
I also tried munching some Pop Tarts like on the drive. Really could only eat about half a Pop Tart is all I could manage. But I did
Yeah.
drink, and I know this isn't exactly people are going to be like, that's not real nutrition, but I drank a 12 that was I guess it's 12 ounce like Red Bull, Juneberry Red Bull. It's 110 calories, get some sugar, get some caffeine. It I like V8 Energy, but they use a lot of artificial sweetener and it makes me have to go to the bathroom. And for some reason Red Bull does not. And I don't drink
Actually
Red
like
Bull.
Red Bull. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a normal Red Bull drinker, but like I'm now an adult and I'm old enough and I am a caffeine user. Not ridiculous. Like, I don't do energy drinks really, but I do coffee every morning. And so I've
Yeah.
found now that if I don't have caffeine, I will get a headache, which sucks.
Yeah.
But so I do. I usually choose Red Bulls in the morning for athletic days instead of coffee, especially big days, like
Well, yeah,
where
I wanted the sugar. I wanted the sugar that was in it. It's
yeah,
very drinkable. It's cold. It's fizzy. It just to me it was just easier to drink that than to try to eat something.
yeah,
And I was, it was early in the morning, man. I was tired, so I don't do that every day, at least not Red Bull, because I don't want all the niacin and the like all the extra stuff that's in it. I
yeah.
don't want to do that every day.
No,
But
no, I'm black coffee, but on race day I still have to have some form of caffeine, and I don't always have
yeah,
access to facilities, and so I usually opt to not have coffee.
yeah. Um, but man, those last trail conditions. I mean, there was a point where I got to the top of the hill. I'm like, yes, I can finally get some momentum down this next hill. And I crossed this little gravel fire road, and the trail on the other side is just mush. And it's supposed to be downhill. And I'm like pedaling and sliding, trying to get some momentum downhill. And you want to talk about frustrated, just oh,
Oh man,
but my bike.
I
So this
was
is something we need to talk about. If you did this race, I'm going to highly encourage you to wash your bike and then just start taking the whole thing apart because I was working on my bike last night just to, I was changing some things and dude, I had a one bearing that was like fully seized. There's dirt and muck in every crevice. I'm still not done. Like I've got to take more stuff apart. I can tell one of my pedals needs, some love. Um, I managed to salvage the bearing though. Pretty happy about that. Uh, I didn't realize, usually you just think of your drivetrain being the thing that gets eaten alive in these races.
oh
I
no man,
had,
it's all those
the pivots.
pivots and brakes.
I threw on some like 50% worn organic brake pads for this race because I did that just to make sure I had more clearance to the rotor to have less chance of any rotor rub, right? I don't want any rotor rub at all. Uh, and I've used those same brake pads for like a year plus two BT Epics. They're gone. Like literally
Yeah,
basically to the metal. They were gone. Um, I was gonna I'm replacing my whole drivetrain anyway. I'm glad I did not do it before the race because that would have been a lot of extra wear. Um, so I'm really glad that I didn't change all that before the race. Uh, I think my suspension's good though. I think those new dust seals and stuff did their job, even though my suspension felt like crap in the rain. But I think that has more to do with just the water on your stanchions just makes everything sticky. But I don't like once I cleaned my bike and dried it and cleaned everything, I was kind of pushing on everything and it felt totally smooth and normal and not sticky. So
Good.
yeah, I just had my
Yeah,
fork
no,
rebuilt and I was
our,
like,
our,
go ahead.
our buddy Caleb was talking about his bike. He's like, Kyle, every pivot and bearing on this frame is needs to be replaced. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably true. I'm like, you did a full year of endurance racing in less than primo conditions. I imagine every bearing and pivot on that bike is cooked. So yeah, no, it's that was a hard race on equipment, man. Mine never even left the bike rack because I'd gone there. My intention was to catch you, me and Connor catch you at Bass, do the Butts climb, and then ride all that beautiful single track that was just absolutely miserable. So I was bummed, and Connor was too. He every time we stopped somewhere, he'd be like, "Dad, I thought we were gonna ride bikes today. You said we were gonna ride 10 miles today." And I was like, "Here's your bike, kid. Go for it." So he might I'm gonna have to do work his bike anyways because he spent all day riding around in gravel and whatever he could get himself into. So I'm not
Yeah,
looking forward
man,
to
it
tearing that apart.
I couldn't believe it. I actually wasn't about to take anything apart, and I kind of looked in where my flip chips are. Um, and I could kind of see some like dirt like in a hole, kind of like, but that's just how the flip chip's designed. Or what, 'cause there's like a gap a little bit. So like I better take that apart and clean it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much worse than I imagined. Um, Now if you're cheap like me, so I actually took a little, I have a dental pick and popped the seal off the bearing that was really stuck and got some like it's Giant makes is like liquid silt, but it's just a penetrating lube, right? And sprayed that in there and got where I could start spinning the bearings and I'd move them around, spin them more, spray, clean it out, do it some more, spray, like did that over and over till it was like free, nice and free. It doesn't feel like brand new. And then I took some like red tacky grease and just packed it in there, put the seal back in, and I'm like, all right, we're good. It's good to go. Did that to the other one on the other side that was in better shape, but still pretty bad. Um, anyway, it was yeah, I've
No,
still
it's a
got
lot.
more to go to clean and just make sure everything's clean and I'm not going to be, rubbing grit in the pivots. Um,
Yeah, I
I've
just
only got
went through and did all that to my Santa Cruz before the Moab trip, and then Connor went to Moab with two bad frame pivot bearings, like his main pivots on the frame were bad, and I same thing. You just try to get some stuff in there to get them work. I just put Triflow in there. It was the only thing I could get to penetrate because they're not sealed bearings,
yeah, yeah.
and they have like that metal shield around it, so they're not like a dust seal.
I
Yeah,
know
no, it's
I think I'm gonna have to replace my dropper post cable and housing here eventually. It started getting real stiff. Uh, I squirted
you
some
can hit that with.
Tri-Flow down in there, but it's still not great.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Triflow don't get it, yeah, you might be looking at a replacement. I'm gonna have to. I'm not looking forward to doing any of that on Connor's bike because he needs cable and housing for both seat post and shifter, and then pivots. I gotta do probably every pivot in that frame, but it's an odd frame, and I don't even know what size bearings to buy, so I gotta figure that out too.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've got the seals for my shock to do like the can, even though that's not like a normal thing anymore for Fox. But I think it's fine. I didn't crack it open, but it seems to be like my fork and shock seem to be totally fine, which they should be. I mean, think about how many times my enduro bike's been through the muck, and it's still always clean when I open it up. So,
Sure.
um, and the suspension wasn't exactly bottoming out, slamming into stuff because it wouldn't hardly move in the cold wet anyway. Felt like I was riding a jackhammer. Um, So, any other questions? I know you got to go here pretty quick.
If if somebody could describe to you in very great detail exactly what the day was going to be for you at the start line, would you have set off again?
I would have, I maybe would have gone slower and just tried to like be like, I'm just gonna enjoy riding my bike today, even in bad conditions, and just kind of laugh it off. But I was trying so hard. I that's the thing, like why I'm still satisfied because I don't think I could have really done any better. Maybe if I was by my I could maybe okay, maybe there's a total of 3.5 to 5 minutes of like clear descent time that I didn't get because I was following people. And like I stopped because like a woman in front of me crashed really hard um shortly before Beecher Spring. There's kind of this weird off camber that's really not supposed to be the trail, but the way erosion has happened, you kind of have to ride like up on this bank, but it's like really was still dry and loose at that time. She just like washed out on it and just high sided slammed. There was a few things in there. Okay, maybe I could have gone 3 to 5 minutes faster, but who knows? If I'd gotten free descents, maybe I would have cramped because I wasn't really recovering down them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Right.
I'm very satisfied as like I did my best. If I had known though it was going to be that bad, I might have stayed back and rode with a friend of mine from college, he's a couple years older than me. Um, I ran into him at the starting line. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool," And he was riding with a friend, and they were out there for a long time, like 8 hours and 47 minutes. I don't know if I'd have wanted to go that slow, but I maybe would have just enjoyed it. I finally feel like I'm over the hump of like every year in the past, just to ride the Epic was a mental thing of like, I can't believe I'm about to go do 52 and a half miles. That's so far. I can't believe I'm going to do this. But I'm past that point now where I wasn't worried about that at all. Like it was no that the distance in my mind was no big deal, which is really a cool place to be
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, I can ride that. Like I'm going to ride it pretty fast even. Um Whereas I can remember when doing one lap around the Berryman, 26 miles was like a huge deal to me, huge deal, and very hard. So we'll see about next year. I'm gonna plan to be in like similar shape as I am this year, if not for riding, but you know, for the first time really ever, my wife and I both are on we're both on kind of a weight loss deal. Uh, So I'm not saying I'll have ridden as much, but I should be, let's say I'm 180 pounds instead of 193 pounds. That might make up a lot of still being able to do it in 6 or 7 hours. Um, but if I do it, I'd really like to just ride with someone who, for them, I want to be able to witness someone like feel like they've really made an accomplishment just doing the race. That makes sense.
You want a rider coach.
Kinda. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, play like the old player coach deal. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it
and it
sounds
might
fun.
be, man, I got a nephew that's kind of taken he's got an interest. I don't know if he'll do it next year, but maybe 2027. I want to do that kind of like I want to enjoy the day out there with everybody. Um, I'm proud of how I finished. There were 44 people in the 30 to 39-year-old class. I got 14th.
That's actually
Um,
really good.
14th out of the
But
25 that finished. We had everybody else. We had almost well, we have 19 DNFs. Um, But
well, hey,
I've never been in the top half of anything in this race ever.
no, I was proud of you, man. That was a good day. Hard day, good day. But hey, I got a jet.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and end this anyway. I think we've said all we need to say. Unless people have questions, they can always send them in, and we'll try to address them next time. So, If you finished the BT Epic this year, congratulations, you're awesome. If you DNF'd, I mean, nice try, I guess, but I could probably get I might check in to see about getting Hannah, and then a lady I work with knows the person, I don't know his name, who was literally the last finisher um at 9 hours and 47 minutes. So I could maybe get him on here too. I think that would be kind of fun just to I don't know if he'd want to. He might think we're making fun of him, but we're not, but I'd kind of like to get his perspective as well. So all right, Kyle. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And if you have questions, send them in.